Hey guys, Haz here at Shield Canine. Let's talk about feral dogs. So what you're seeing here is a Caribbean pot cake. It's a pretty well-known type of feral dog that comes from the Caribbean. And she's here because she gets a little bit nasty with strangers, and people can't come over to their house. And she's a kind of a bit of an anxious dog, a little bit sketchy with people that she doesn't know, and they're looking to get all that under control so that they can walk her normally and so that they can have guests come over to their house. So let's talk about feral dogs, because it seems like it's all the rage these days to adopt one. We seem to have one in our training program here at least once per month. Whether it's from Mexico, the Middle East, the Caribbean. These all seem to be pretty popular places that people adopt from. I think there's actual shelters there that online adopt to people. That must be where they're coming from. Or people go on vacation and they see the dogs and they want the dogs. So anyways, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it from a professional trainer standpoint, because like I said, we've trained quite a few of them by now. And even though they come from different places and they all look different, because obviously, they're a mixture of many, many different types, they have a certain level of similarity in their behavior. Some are more social, some are less social, but they act very similar when you train them. So number one, they're not very trainable. Most feral dogs that are multi-generation feral dogs are not high on the trainability index. It takes a fair bit of effort to train them. It takes a lot of repetitions, and they're generally pretty resistant to the process. If they have a high level of food motivation, which unfortunately she does not, it really helps. But a lot of these feral dogs, they don't have much desire to play with toys, and they don't have a lot of them won't take food rewards very well. So what you're forced with is you're forced to reward them with a lot of social interaction, right? So you'll see here when Eric rewards the dog, right? She's resistant of going into positions and stuff like that, which is normal. But you see that he uses a lot of praise and a lot of kind of movement to reward the dog, to generate arousal and happiness with the dog. Because again, she won't take the food rewards and she won't take the toy rewards. She's not interested in either of those things. So he has to reward her with their relationship, which of course he's building, because we've only had the dog now a couple of weeks. Anyways, a lot of these dogs have this trait. Like I said, we've trained many feral dogs, and a lot of them have this trait. The other thing as well to consider is a lot of them have social issues. Issues that probably wouldn't affect them negatively, were they to continue to live their lives on the street, but issues that 100%, are not really conducive for a dog to being a pet. But if you think about it from a genetic selection standpoint, especially if the dog's coming from generations of feral dogs, genetically, the traits that are going to benefit a feral dog, like caution, right, are not really going to benefit a pet dog, right? The ability to protect your resources. That's why we see a lot of resource guarding generally with these feral dogs. You see a lot of resource guarding issues with them. Not all of them. Again, we're speaking in generalities, but definitely many of them. And then we see a lot of dog-on-dog aggression, and then we see a lot of human aggression with these dogs, right? And if you think about it, it makes complete sense. These dogs live in packs on the street, but if you ever go to a place with a lot of feral dogs that actually form packs, you'll find that the packs actually aren't very friendly with each other. And even the interpack dynamic, it's pretty rough. It's not all rainbows and butterflies when these guys go at it. They go at it over a piece of food, or if you think about it, these guys are hungry. They're on the streets. The food isn't always plentiful. You gotta fight to survive. These are especially dogs that come from more rougher places like the Middle East. I assume kind of like the Caribbean is probably more of an easier place as compared to the Middle East. Again, it's a generality. But I definitely see the Middle Eastern dogs that come from the Middle East seem to be the worst ones from my experience that we've dealt with in terms of their social issues and their resistance to training. But like I said, they all have a lot of similarities in their behavior. Anyways, I think that a lot of people, like I said, it's become quite the fad to adopt these dogs. Whether people go on vacation and see the dogs, or they adopt from some shelter on the internet. We get some Chinese meat market dogs too, or Korean meat market. I don't know, whatever Asian countries. We've had quite a few of these dogs that are supposedly from the meat markets, and they're actually worse than the Middle Eastern dogs, to be honest with you. Some of them, I'm like, man, you should have left this one in the meat market. It is not, this is going to be a long road to hoe, and this dog, where we can get with it is not going to be, the same as where we could get maybe with a dog that you got from, a good background, let's say. So anyways, let's go into this. I'm not saying that you shouldn't adopt these dogs. What I'm saying is, don't have rainbows and butterflies in your eyes when you do so. Be realistic in your expectations, right? Like I said already, if your dog is coming from multi-generations of feral dogs, I'm not talking like, the dog that somebody just put out on the street because they're tired of having it. I'm talking about legit feral dogs from places where there's been generations of these dogs on the street. You are going to run into a number of things, like low trainability, like a strong sense of independence, and oftentimes, like I said, the social issues and potentially some resource guarding. So that's something to keep in mind. So it's undoubted to me that for sure, if you can give one of these dogs a good home, the right training, and a strong sense of leadership and direction, that this dog is going to have a better life with you than they would on the streets, right, or in the meat market. Well, the meat market, I guess, isn't going to be much of a life for very long, but you get my point, right? When you get one of these dogs, go into it with your eyes wide open. You are doing a good thing, but guess what? Good things aren't easy. People think it's just, I'm just going to adopt this dog and I'm going to give it food and shelter and love and cookies, and it's just going to love me so much and it's going to be magical. I'm going to tell my friends, I'm going to do that Instagram post, hashtag love, all you need is love, right? But that's oftentimes, it can work. It can be like that, but oftentimes it's not, right? And then you're going to be like, this dog's owners who are doing the right thing. They've got professional help for the dog. They're putting in the work and the resources to get her where they need to get her so that she can be a good part, a good dog for their family, and that she can fit into their lives well. So, like I said, actually, just quickly, I got a call from a lady recently, and this isn't the only type of call that I've got like this. She had adopted one of these Caucasian Shepherd mixes from the Middle East, and it was an adult female, and she brought it into her home with her two other dogs, and she called me in tears because the Caucasian Shepherd mix from the streets of the Middle East put one of her floofy dogs into the hospital, and was attacking the other one. She's grabbing them by the back of the neck, which is a quintessential dominance behavior. And she was in tears. She just couldn't understand why this happened, and she was obviously having a really rough time of it. But if you really think about it, I mean, it's totally foreseeable. Like these dogs, she got an OG from the streets. She brought it into her house. This dog came from, the streets where she had to fight to survive. She had to fight for everything that she wanted, and she had to fight to feed herself. And it's like she brought this into her house with her little floofy dogs. And of course, she brought this big, feral dog into her house with the other dogs, and of course there was a fight over the food, or in relation to the food anyways, and one of the dogs ended up in the hospital, because when those types of dogs fight, they often fight for keeps, right? So, think of it like this. That dog has experiences and genetic predispositions that your typical pet dog isn't going to have. And you have to understand what you're bringing into your home. Can you do it? Yes. Should you do it? It depends on your personal situation. I would say this: if you have small children, and if you have existing dogs in your house, be very, very cautious about doing it. Personally, I wouldn't do it. There's just so much that could go wrong. And, it's one of those things where you have to be very careful. If you think about it, I don't know if any of you have ever seen a coyote. If you look at a coyote, for instance, they are sketchy, sketchy animals, right? I had a wolf hybrid in here not too long ago. I'll attach a little video of her. she was so sketchy, right? Because that kind of sketchy behavior lends itself to survival in the wild. In the wild, if these animals get injured, they're dead, right? They need to be very hyper cautious of social interaction and also of environmental stuff that's a little bit different. Obviously, the wolf hybrid, the coyote type dogs, they're going to be way worse even than these typical feral dogs, right? Like these feral dogs come from a survival situation where they rely on human, garbage generally to survive. So they're always around humans, but humans, especially in some of these places where they come from, can be quite dangerous as well. They often will throw rocks at these dogs, or injure these dogs for fun, hit them with cars, shoot them, And I'm not saying they all come from terrible places. I'm just saying that this can be, humans can be just as dangerous as other dogs, as cars, as anything. So, these dogs did not survive. They did not reproduce by not being cautious. But, if you think about it, our pets, our domestic dogs, they're successful because they're not cautious. They're very open. They're very social when you compare them to other wild animals anyways. And that lends itself to them being good pets. But that type of stuff is not going to necessarily lend itself to survival in the wild, So just think of it that way. Go into it, everything with your eyes wide open, and be realistic.